Now, Apple has issued an urgent software update for many of its phones, tablets, and computers, and that's because of security flaws that could allow attackers to take complete control of the devices. The vulnerability would allow intruders to impersonate the device's owner and subsequently run any software in their name. Well, I'm joined now by our cyber reporter, Joe Tidy. Joe, that sounds a bit scary to me, but help us understand, what exactly does this data breach involve?
Yes, so this is a vulnerability that's been discovered by an anonymous researcher somewhere in the world. I hope that they have been rewarded handsomely by Apple. And they discovered that if you do this, and this, then you can basically get access to any of these Apple devices that you mentioned there. It affects anything Apple iPhone 6 and onwards in terms of phones, plus iPod Touch and iPads, and then some Macs that run the Monterey iOS platform. So the reason why it's so serious is twofold. That firstly, because of how powerful that type of vulnerability is. So this is a dream, for example, for someone who wanted to use a device as a surveillance tool. And there are obviously companies and organizations out there that do that. But also it's serious because Apple says there may be evidence that it has been exploited in the wild by a hacker. We don't know who, and we don't know to what extent that is. But it wouldn't have been. It's not a mass hack against lots and lots of people, against the general public. This would have been a targeted attack, and we might find out more in the next few months, but at the moment Apple isn't saying very much.
Right. And Joe, how significant is this, that this vulnerability was found not by Apple, but as you said, essentially a group of people somewhere?
Yeah, so this would have been discovered by a white hat hacker, as we say, an ethical hacker, one of the good guys and girls out there who are searching for ways into devices, and then they will report them to big companies like Apple and Microsoft and all big tech firms out there, and then they get what's called a bug bounty. So the company will pay them money and say thank you for alerting them to the security risk. It's not that unusual for a big company like Apple to get vulnerabilities in this way. They obviously will have their own security teams, but they do accept many vulnerability statements by people out there. I looked at the list, for example, today of security alerts and security updates that Apple has issued in the last year or so, and almost all of them have come from external researchers and groups and individuals. And it has to be said that this particular vulnerability, although very serious, it isn't completely unprecedented. These kind of software updates are issued as security patches every now and then. In fact, in March, there was one almost identical to this, and that was sort of released with no fanfare. I think it might have been a viral tweet that went a bit crazy last night on Twitter, which may have made this really mainstream news. It is serious, but it's nothing to panic about.
And how do you know if you've got this malware on your phone?
You don't. I think part of the reason why this is so serious is because it would be an attack used by a very highly skilled team of hackers and attackers, the types of companies who specialize in this kind of attack against the likes of a politician or a celebrity or a journalist or a high-profile, human rights campaigner. And they may have already entered people's phones, and they may already be doing what they need to do to access those kind of important and secretive documents on someone's device. So I'm afraid if it has happened, there's a good chance you won't know about it. But I have to stress, this isn't anything for the general public to worry about. This would have been, if anyone has been attacked by this, it will be a very few, maybe a handful of people around the world.